Imagine stepping into a chilly Seattle afternoon in 1931, the kind of day where a persistent drizzle pats the window panes and a subdued gloom settles over the entire city. In a cramped high school classroom, a solemn-faced teenage girl named Frances Farmer stands in front of her peers, reading an essay she titled "God Dies." Her words land like a slap in the face of everyone raised on Sunday school and the staid norms of the era. When she's done, a hush hangs in the air, broken only by muffled gasps. A teacher tries to regain composure. The students exchange startled looks, and Frances stares back with a defiant glint, half smirk curling her lip. She's only 17, but she's already challenging the pillars of faith and authority. That essay, soon published in Scholastic magazine, ignites a citywide outrage. Parents brand her a blasphemer. Local newspapers condemn her as a lost soul. Seattle's church-going populace points to her mother, Lillian, wondering how a devout Christian could let her daughter run amok with such irreverent ideas. Frances, though rattled, steels herself. This scandal, her first real brush with the fury of public opinion, lays down a marker. From now on, her life will be a roller coaster, veering between fame, outrage, brilliance, and utter devastation. Within 4 years, that rebellious spark catapults her to Hollywood, courtesy of a writing contest that snags the attention of studio scouts. It's 1935, and Paramount quickly signs her, ushering her into a world of elaborate sets, shimmering gowns, and manufactured glamour. Frances is 21, coltish yet dignified, exuding an icy allure that stands in stark contrast to the sweet-natured heroines dominating screens at the time. She's cast in Rhythm, On the Range, 1936, sharing the spotlight with Bing Crosby. On camera, she projects that aloof sophistication with mesmerizing ease. Like she's too smart for the script, too restless for the formulaic niceness Hollywood adores. Directors note her striking presence, that intangible something that could have made her an A-lister. She might even have become a major comedic star if the system had nurtured her. But Paramount finds her attitude difficult to tame. Indeed, behind the camera, she's stubborn, prone to questioning lines she deems inauthentic, letting producers know she won't just smile and nod if she disagrees. This is a woman who wrote God Dies at 17. She's not about to play the docile starlet for anyone. Fate soon yanks her east. Late 1936 sees Frances land in New York to appear on Broadway. She meets Clifford Odets, the celebrated playwright behind Waiting for Lefty and Golden Boy. At first it seems like a meeting of minds. Both are brash, intellectually hungry. She's smitten with Odets's artistry. He admires her brazen spirit. Their affair grows passionate, overshadowed by the fact that he's married to actress Louise Rayner. He whispers promises to divorce, to build a new life with Frances, but it's smoke and mirrors. The year creeps into 1937 and the cracks show. Odets won't leave Rayner. Paramount grows irritated that Frances is off chasing a stage romance, and her Hollywood bosses aren't thrilled about the love triangle whispers saturating industry gossip. By early 1938, Frances slinks back to L.A., battered by heartbreak. In her wake, producers brand her difficult, a code word for any actress who steps out of line. Sensing potential scandal, the studios scale down her roles, reluctant to invest in a star who might challenge the patriarchal comfort of 1930s entertainment. The damage is done, but the absolute meltdown is still a few years away. In the intervening period, she drifts between minor roles, never quite losing that rebellious glimmer in her eye. Then comes the night of October 19th, 1942. Frances has been out drinking in Santa Monica. No big deal for a Hollywood star blowing off steam, except she's hammered enough to drive her car while wrapped in nothing but a towel, headlights blazing. At a time when strict wartime curfews demand no one roams without reason. The police pull her over. She tries to talk her way out, giving the false name Marjorie Stanhope. The ruse falls apart once the cops recognize her face from magazine covers. Soon she's booked for drunk driving and resisting arrest. A subsequent court appearance in January 1943 cements her reputation as a troublemaker when she hurls an ink bottle at the presiding judge, accusing him of being stupid. She's fined $500 and slapped with a suspended 180-day jail term. This fiasco shreds whatever delicate persona Hollywood had tried to package for her. A star who defies religious orthodoxy is one thing, but an actress literally flinging objects at the judicial system. Tinseltown can't abide that. The press has a field day, and studio heads decide Frances Farmer is simply too combustible, too big a risk. No one is more horrified than her mother Lillian, whose devout Christianity has always clashed with Frances's rebellious streak. Lillian arranges for a psychiatric evaluation in early 1943, citing her daughter's volatile mood swings. The doctors diagnose Frances with bipolar disorder, then typically labeled as manic depression, though mental health science in that era is crude. Frances rails against the diagnosis, swinging fists at the staff so the authorities forcibly commit her to Kimball Sanitarium. She feels betrayed, furious. Over the next few months, she's in and out of the facility. At one point, she physically attacks her mother, intensifying the official stance that she's a danger to herself and others. By 1944, the state steps in. She's declared legally insane and shipped off to Western State Hospital, an ominous institution near Lakewood. The plan is indefinite confinement. Frances, the once promising star, locked away behind barred windows and antiseptic corridors. For nearly 6 years, she endures a brutal regimen of insulin shock therapy, possibly hydrotherapy, and rumored sexual abuse. She emerges at intervals, only to be readmitted for another meltdown. Some whisper about lobotomy, fueled decades later by the film Frances, 1982, and her own memoir-like text, Will There Really Be a Morning, 1972. Officially, there's no conclusive evidence she underwent such a procedure, but the cocktail of forced treatments remains nightmarish. The cruelty is enough to break anyone. Many fans later see her ordeal as symbolic of how mid-century America punished outspoken women who refused to bow down. In 1950, after nearly 6 years, Frances Farmer is released from Western State Hospital. The outside world has changed drastically since her last taste of freedom. Hollywood has churned through new darlings, the war is over, and the public has all but forgotten her. She's a wreck, emaciated, traumatized, no longer brimming with that earlier defiance. She tries to find menial jobs, anything that pays rent. Sometimes she scrubs floors or types forms in an office. Despite attempts to keep a low profile, her name resurfaces in tabloids whenever she's arrested for public intoxication. The local papers call her the once great star turned ghost. In 1957, she's caught stumbling around Eureka, drunkenly shouting about how she was robbed of her life. In 1958, she causes a traffic accident in San Francisco, landing her in jail again. A glimmer of her old spark flickers in these episodes, but the public sees only tragedy, a star undone by her own demons, or so they assume. Then something unexpected happens. In 1958, a TV producer persuades her to appear on a program called This Is Your Life. The segment is meant to be a redemption arc, but it's a disaster. Frances stumbles through the broadcast, slurring words, struggling to maintain composure under the bright studio lights. Viewers watch in horror as she teeters between raw vulnerability and belligerence. Some pity her, others cringe. The network quickly distances itself, shelving any idea of a follow-up. Frances retreats once more, humiliated anew. A small ray of light emerges in the late 1950s. Frances befriends Jean Ratcliffe, a quiet, gentle soul who offers her a room to stay and unconditional empathy. By 1958 or so, they share a space in Indianapolis, forging a companionship that gives Frances a measure of stability. She picks up small gigs, including hosting a local TV program, ironically titled Frances Farmer Presents. It's a modest affair, basically introducing old films to a local audience, but it's hers. The once sensational star, now middle-aged and battered by life, stands in front of a camera, cue cards in hand, introducing classic movies to housewives and retirees after dinner. Audiences sense a subdued calm in her voice. There's no more shrill outbursts, no flung ink bottles, just a faint sadness that never quite leaves her gaze. Some fans from the old days recognize glimmers of her earlier brilliance. Others see only a worn-down shell, reading lines with mechanical politeness. Still, for the first time in decades, she's not fighting the law or the psychiatric system. She's forging a semblance of normalcy with Jean at her side. You could almost hope this fragile peace might last, but tragedy has a way of finding Frances. In 1969, she's diagnosed with advanced esophageal cancer. Years of chain smoking, 2 packs a day if rumors are correct, plus the heavy drinking have ravaged her body. She tries to ignore the pain at first, but her voice cracks. Swallowing becomes excruciating. By early 1970, the cancer has spread. Surgery attempts fail. The tumor is too entrenched. She checks into community hospital in July, gaunt and coughing up blood. This is the final stage. On August 1st, 1970, at 4:45 a.m., Frances Farmer takes her last breath. She's 56. Her friend Jean Ratcliffe is the only one present. No paparazzi, no family vigil. Her mother, once so pivotal in getting her committed, is nowhere to be found. The official death certificate cites esophageal cancer complicated by years of alcohol abuse. The silent witness to her final moments is a nurse who barely knows who Frances Farmer was. A few days later, on August 4th, 1970, a small funeral service is held at Christ Church Episcopal in Indianapolis. The pews are mostly empty. A handful of local acquaintances attend, plus Jean Ratcliffe and possibly a couple of obscure fans. No big Hollywood names show up with lavish wreaths. The body is cremated, and as Frances wanted, the ashes are scattered over Puget Sound in Washington, her childhood home. No tombstone, no plaque. She'd once said she wanted to disappear quietly, and so she does. The city, busy with daily life, barely registers her passing. For a star once feared and idolized, it's a muted exit, fitting perhaps for someone systematically stripped of her dignity. But Frances Farmer's story doesn't end in that quiet chapel. In 1978, William Arnold's book Shadowland resurfaces the more lurid details of her life, focusing heavily on rumored lobotomies and insane asylum abuses. The public devours it, horrified. While historians debate the factual accuracy, some say the lobotomy claim is sensational rumor. The effect is immediate. Frances Farmer becomes a posthumous symbol of how Hollywood and society at large punish women who refuse to conform. She's cast as the ultimate rebel, undone by a system that can't handle her defiance. Then, in 1982, Jessica Lange stars in the film Frances, which dramatizes the narrative. Scenes of forced hospitalizations, implied sexual violence by orderlies, and a lobotomy sequence shock viewers. Despite controversies over authenticity, the film cements Frances's legend, an icon for women's rights, an emblem of patriarchal punishment, a cautionary tale about mental health in the 1940s. Ultimately, Frances Farmer's narrative is a symphony of contradictions, a brilliant mind undone by crass tabloids, a rebellious soul trampled by mental health care systems of the 1940s, and a once glamorous star relegated to introducing vintage movies on local TV stations. You can see her story as heartbreak incarnate or as a testament to human perseverance in the face of relentless adversity. Either way, you can't deny its tragic power. She forced the world to notice her at 17 with God Dies, and never once learned how to quiet that defiance. The world, it seems, was not ready for such an incendiary spirit, and so we're left with the memory of a star who soared briefly, crashed spectacularly, and found her legacy rising again from the ashes, decades after those black and white studio photos first captured her aloof, provocative eyes. It's a legacy that stands as both cautionary and inspiring, ensuring that Frances Farmer won't be forgotten anytime soon.